still cold. Kind of. At least getting warmer. And it's raining a lot. Clinton, how are you? Did you guys almost get sucked up by a tornado last week?
No.
Oh.
We've had pretty darn nice weather. Even today, it's, again, Monday blues, man. We opened up the morning at 33 degrees and got a high of about 52, but we're back to 75 tomorrow. But 2 weeks ago on Monday, we had like a 30-degree high. It was insane. No tornadoes. We had a little bit of rain. Saturday, as I mentioned, I was going to try to go to the spring game. We didn't end up going because it was supposed to be nasty thunderstorms, and then it rained some. Like it downpoured in the second half of the game, so I'm glad I did not have two children there. But no, our weather's been great. Everything's been pretty good here. We got 2 more weeks until T-ball season games officially kick off, so I'm excited for that. I've been enjoying some playoff hockey and playoff NBA basketball and some baseball. Ryan, how are you?
Um, I'm good. I did way too much yard work today, and now I'm really tired. I have a philosophical question for you. We'll call it the question of the night. What is the dumbest or most random thing that is still semi-relevant towards daily life that you've ever bought? So I'm not talking like I just went and impulse bought a gaming PC because it's like that's not relevant to daily life, but like something that you can get out of, like something that you could use that's like relevant to life that you just were like, I'm going to buy that even though you didn't need it.
Oh boy. That's a tough one. I was gonna say Brooks shoes because it's relevant, but I did need it when I have 15 pairs, but I haven't bought a pair in like a year and a half, 2 years, so that's kind of out of the question. Um, you know, yeah, that's relevant. Probably let's say. Oh, that's such a lame answer too. I don't know, Ryan. What's yours? And then maybe I can think of one.
Um, I bought an apple tree yesterday.
Okay, that's fair.
We went to Lowe's. I don't even remember why we were going to Lowe's. I think I just needed to get lawn bags because we changed like we didn't change. The county changed rubbish providers.
Okay.
So we got new cans, but part of their policy is if you have like a yard waste bin, it has to be one that they provide. You can't just have like your own random trash cans, and that's what I have. So I'm like, well, fuck, I'm not going to spend $30, or I should just spend $30 to get a fucking yard waste bin, honestly. But so I went and bought. I needed to get yard bags because I haven't cut my grass yet this year, and it was a adventure and a half today cutting that. But we've been talking about getting like I don't even know what kind of tree it is, just like privacy trees in the backyard, just because
Mhm.
it's like chain link fence, very open. And it's like I don't want to put up like a whole fucking thing, but just like a couple of things, especially at night in the summer. The back window is like right facing west, so it gets really sunny. Just something to kind of block a little bit. And trees are good for the curb appeal. But we were looking around the garden section, and there was just an apple tree there. I'm like, that would be cool. So we bought a fucking apple tree, and then we went home and started researching. And apparently, you have to buy two apple trees because they have to fuck each other or something. You need like two apple trees for pollination purposes.
Or
It's
you won't
very
get apples.
strange. Yes, that's basically it. It was like they'll grow, but they're not going to produce apples. You need at least two for pollination purposes. There's like select kinds that don't need that, but that was not the kind we got. So then we had to go back to Lowe's and get a second apple tree. So now I have two apple trees sitting in my backyard that I need to plant this week.
That's fun. And are they? I mean, it's spring now, but are they able to be planted with your cold weather?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. We kept them. We well, we didn't want to. We had them sitting outside. Well, we had one in the garage. We got the second one. It was too big to sit in the garage, so we were just gonna leave it outside. But there was a frost warning last night, so Sam was like, "We can't leave it outside. It's sensitive to the cold." I'm like, "What are we gonna do when it plants?" She's like, "It's fine when it's in the ground, but when it's in its planter, it's sensitive to the cold." So we had these apple trees in our living room last night to protect them from the cold. It is going to be warm this week, so it's fine. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyway, if
I don't
anyone knows
know,
anything
man.
about apple trees, let me know because it's under my impression that I'm not going to get apples for like 3 to 7 business years.
we have 2 maples that we put up at the end of fall last year, and then we have 3 like arborvitaes. Except the company we bought them through, I don't know if there's much of like an installation fee or whatever. So they planted them, but they planted them the second week in November when you and I were in Oregon. And so that time of year, there's really not much watering that needs to be done. And everything is unhooked at that point here because we'd already had a snow at that point.
Mhm.
And so our maples are doing phenomenal. Our middle arborvitae is pretty much toast. It got winter burn on it
Oh
from
boy.
our cold, harsh wind. So that one's pretty much toast. And then one of our other ones. So which with each tree through this company, you get one free replacement. So in about 3 weeks, they will be coming out to replant 2 of my trees. So they look great though. It's nice to have something in the backyard, like you said, to have some life and have some leaves. It's it's nice to look at versus my neighbor's backyard.
Ah,
So
so see, these are the trees that we bought. The other ones that we got, the arborvitaes.
yep. So I'm looking forward to those continuing to grow this year. And then they're not as worried about winter burn now because they'll have all of spring and all of summer and all of fall
Yeah.
to develop so that they don't get that again. But man, I am stumped on that question. I might have to think about that as you're giving some of your top 10, top 5 defenses here because something that is relevant that I would use or utilize kind of daily, but I didn't really need it.
Yeah.
A wife? No, I'm just kidding. Um,
Fair.
I'm
Fair.
kidding. I'm kidding. Da, 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 da. I don't know, man. I don't. About the only thing I really buy is food. I hear. Oh, I got it. Here you go. MLB TV.
Ah, okay.
Didn't
There you
need
go.
that this year, but I
That's a
really
good
wanted
one.
to watch the Guardians, and YouTube TV for me is on pause as soon as May hits. So I decided to splurge. Got MLB TV this year because I wanted to watch the Guardians, which I have been doing. I will get my money's worth, but I didn't need to spend that. But it's only $100 for the whole entire season, so I thought that
That's
was
a good
pretty
one.
good.
That was a good one.
So I finally got one. There we go.
Well, on less fun news, we were talking defenses tonight. We kind of teased last week that we might be doing something draft-y this week, with the NFL draft coming up, but we decided we're going to put that on pause. We're going to do the drafty stuff next week because I think the defense, ranking the defense is going to set up well for that. We're kind of trying to figure out our tiers and how we're going to kind of price this out. So we want a little more time to do that. And it's a good kind of piggyback off what we did last week with ranking the top 5 offenses in the Big Ten. Now we are doing the top 5 defenses. Clinton.
I'm looking forward to doing the draft stuff next week. We were originally, as Ryan said, going to try to push that to this week. And then we realized, you know what? We should probably break the defense down by position groups as well. So that way this thing kind of smooths out and it looks like a better graphic versus just here's our 5 offensive position groups. You get 1 defense and a special team. So it'll allow us to be also a little more involved with each of these teams. As you guys know, we're just doing the top 5 offense, top 5 defense, top 5 quarterbacks. So we have not obviously ranked the entire Big Ten. So this will force us to not only utilize what we've done in the top 5 of these rankings the past 3 weeks, but to utilize the entire Big Ten because they will be in tiers and they will each cost money. Out of, I think right now we're operating on $18 in our pot unless we have to change it up. And so we won't be able to utilize every Ohio State or every Oregon or every whoever we deem tier 1 because we won't have enough money. So it'll be really fun. And if Ryan and I can think of a way this year, I think we should keep the teams we draft in a document and then see how it plays out over the year and see like which of our position groups generates more yardage or less yardage or more turnovers and stuff like that and make it fun to reveal at the end of the year and see how we do.
Come up with a scoring system or something.
You do pretty good with scoring systems, Ryan, so I'll let you figure that out.
Great.
It's not like we don't have, 245 days till the season starts, so.
No, well, I can guarantee you that I will procrastinate that for the next 237 days, and then the time will come. The time will come. I'll be like, ah, shit, I gotta fucking figure this out. We can kind of do this like we did last week. If you have any honorable mentions you want to kind of go through, I tried to be different. I didn't want to do the same fucking 5 teams as last week. I almost ended up doing the same 5 teams as last. Well, that's a lie. I wasn't going to put USC anywhere near this, but I almost did 4 of the same 5 as last week. So I'm like, I got to be. I figure I twisted and turned my pretzel logic to figure out a way to be a little different this week. I did not have another proprietary algorithm because that was too much work and I got bored. Also,
Uh,
someone on YouTube comment said it was stupid. So whoever said that, fuck you. I worked hard on that.
why do people shit on you?
Yeah, no, our NPR sound quality and my algorithm. God forbid a fucking guy try to be a little different. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
Honorable mention for me when I look at this is number one's Penn State, and just to see, I really wanted to put Penn State top five, and I'm like, is my sole reason I'm putting them top five because of what I deem is an easy schedule, and that certainly aids to that, but they're probably falling somewhere in 6, 7, 8 for me. I'm really curious what they do this year. Another one is Washington. I think Washington pretty solid defense last year. Interested to see what they compare with their defense, or sorry, their offense this year. Uh, and then Nebraska is curious to me. I think they could fall somewhere in the top 10 as well. So good against the pass last year and absolute ass against the run. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do this year. Ryan, any honorable mentions for you?
yes, I threw Michigan in here. I like Jay Hill. I like some of the portal ads. I am a little skittish with the losses in both the back 7 via the portal and the draft. And I think there's a little bit of a health question mark with this team too, right? Like at the safety position, I think Rod Moore should probably be good to go this year, but that was kind of weird how he kind of came back and then didn't come back last year. So I think the safety position is going to depend a lot on whether or not he's fully healthy. And then the other big one is John Henry Daly, the Utah transfer. It seems like everyone thinks he's going to be ready to go for the start of the season, but he had Achilles surgery like Thanksgiving weekend. That is not a foregone conclusion that he will be back. And that would be a big piece if he's not. I've seen in my research for this production that we did today, a lot of people have him in their top 10 edge rushers for the 2026 college football season. So if he's not healthy to start the season, especially with the way that schedule shakes out in the non-conference with them getting Oklahoma early, that is going to be a big blow for them. Though that I did kind of put the caveat there. If they are both healthy and they're good to go from week 1, this is probably going to be a top 5. This will be a unit that we kind of look back on after the season. I'm like, yeah, I can see how I missed on that. I threw Washington in here too. I almost had them in. They were really good last year. The returning production is really good, 27th nationally on defense, but I am a little, again, skittish that they're replacing both Takario Davis and Ephesians Prysock at the cornerback position. If they can do that, I think they will be really good once again, but that is a pretty big question mark considering the size, the length, and the talent of those two players in particular.
Certainly. You want to lead us off tonight with your number 5, Mr. Ryan? Or
Yes,
do you want me
Clinton,
to?
I'll go first because I have a bit of a curveball at number 5 here. Number 5, Clinton, the Minnesota
Oh,
Golden Gophers.
we are not going to
Um,
have two of the same in this
I
one
told
tonight.
you I wanted to be a little different here, and I am projecting a little bit because you talk about Nebraska being not so good against the run, but really good against the pass last year. Minnesota was not fantastic against the pass last year. I think 51st nationally in yards per game, but they need to be better there for this to come true. But they're 12th nationally in returning production. They are bringing a lot back, and we've talked about this within the last couple of weeks on this show. This edge rushing group, if it's not the best in the Big Ten, it's among the best, and I think has a chance to be among the best in the nation. Anthony Smith and TJ Bush, two exceptionally productive, experienced players. And then we talked a few weeks ago about Carter Menz, the freshman year he had, and I think he's in line to take a big step forward this year too. Um, they get leading tackler Mavic. Oh fuck, I should have practiced this before. It's not even a hard last name. Baranowski, my fellow Polak. Maverick Baranowski, their leading tackler, a linebacker, is back. I saw that last name and I just panicked, man. Give me a break. They get safety Kerry Brown back as well. John Nestor led the team in both passes defended and interceptions last year. He is back. There's a lot of talent back on this defense. And again, it is high quality talent too, right? We talked a little bit about Minnesota last week with the offense. They're bringing a lot back, but it wasn't very good offensively. They're bringing a lot back defensively, and it was very good defensively this year. We'll talk about him a little later, and I don't say this to disrespect the kid, but I do think that Coy Parrish moving on is probably going to be an addition by subtraction. Not saying he's not going to have a great year at Oregon, but I think the way that that situation played out last year with the vanity project of him doing more on special teams and doing more on offense was kind of a net negative for the defense. And now just not having to fuck around and worry about that anymore, I think that's going to be a net positive as well. And listen, if I get, like I said, they have to be better against the pass. If this edge rushing group is as good as I expect it to be, that is going to help out a lot. They got to figure out the interior of the defensive line a little bit. Someone needs to step up there. But I like the material that they have. They have defensive coordinator back for the second year in a row, which is going to be a big positive as well. I expect this to be a very good defensive unit in 2026.
Number 5 for me. This took some thinking for me. Did my top 3. I mean, I had my top 3 and then ordered them, but those were pretty easy. But
I had to think about this a lot.
number 5 is death, taxes, and Iowa being good at defense and special teams. The Hawkeyes allowed 16.8 points per game last year, 280.4 yards per game. Honestly, Ryan, this is kind of a pick that's a pick of faith here with Iowa in trusting that Ferentz and Parker can put together a stout defense. They're going to have 9 new starters on defense this year, and they went portaling to make some of these key additions, such as names defensive backs Tyler Brown. We talked about him in our portal episode. He's from JMU, free safety, started all 14 games. He had 80 tackles, 1 INT, 6 PBUs, and 5 TFLs. They also brought over Anthony Hawkins from Villanova, and he had 59 tackles, 4 TFLs, 2 INTs, 9 PBUs, 2 forced fumbles. But the key thing about him, he is 6'3", 195. That is a tall safety, man. He's expected, again, as I just said, to fill another void at safety. Then we have junior Zach Lutmer. He's going to return. He's one of the returning starters for this defense and will lead Iowa's defensive backs. And he looks to build upon a second-team all Big Ten season last year. The biggest thing that you can trust here is Phil Parker. He's a phenomenal defensive coordinator. He has an eye for talent. You watch what he develops every year with Iowa. It's not 5-star guys, right? It's 2, probably 3, 4-star guys. Not the biggest, flashiest names that you see, but yet he churns them out year after year after year. So why should I doubt Parker in this Iowa defense anymore? So I expect these defensive additions to fit in. He's going to find the best way to utilize them, and Iowa is going to be, at least for me going into the season, my number 5 Big Ten defense.
This is a great transition, Clinton, because I have them at number 4, and I agree with you. This just feels like one of those lists they have to be on because they have earned that right, right? Like you talk about continuity with some, like we're talking about some of these, like they got a defensive coordinator back for the second straight year. Hey, it's their third year under this defensive coordinator. It's going to be a huge boon. Phil Parker is just there. Like that's just his thing is I'm going to build a kick-ass defense with Iowa, and it's year in and year out. Regardless who they lose, this unit comes to play every single day. Tied for 7th in the country in yards per play allowed last year. I am a little concerned about the turnover. You mentioned that a little bit. They're 105th nationally in returning production. You mentioned some of the portal guys. I mean, they're having to replace a lot, but, linebacker Jaden Montgomery, 6th leading tackler last year. You mentioned Lutmer. He was 1st on the team in interceptions and 2nd on the team in passes defended last year. Also bring back Deshaun Lee in the defensive secondary, 2nd on the team in interceptions and 3rd in passes broken up last year. So they're going to have to figure out the defensive line who's going to rush the quarterback a little bit, right? They're losing a fair amount from that group. Defensive tackle Aaron Graves is gone. Edge rusher Max Llewellyn is gone. Defensive lineman Ethan Hurkett is gone. Who is going to step up to replace those guys? But we have seen year in and year out that they just do it. They figure it out. And I get in college football these days, there's something to be said about the comfort of continuity and consistency. But with Iowa, that deserves respect, right? You kind of got to defer to them until they prove otherwise. And if we know anything about Iowa, the passing game is going to be a little tough to watch, but the defense is going to be really freaking good. So I expect them to, again, a lot of talent out the door, but I expect them to replace them all pretty well and once again have a stout defense in 2026.
I mean, maybe they can be aided by some more weather games this year that poor Oregon had to use all the
Yeah,
time last year.
true.
Um, Number 4 for me. You got a real coaching staff this time, so you got to expect this team to rise back up to where they were. The Michigan Wolverines. Michigan's defense, 21st in the country last year at 20.4 points per game and 323.5 yards per game, and getting them 22nd. Now, I want to make a small asterisk of note here. I had to do some research because the original site I was pulling from that was just they generally ranked all the Big Ten defenses. Some of their stats were not accurate, and I would encourage. I'm going to name this site. Do a little better research to make sure you have your yards per game and points per game stats correct. So I went back to our trusty either ESPN or the Score Reference or whatever site to
Mhm.
find my statistics. So hopefully, if anybody fact checks me, feel free to comment and say I'm wrong. But I went back through to try to make sure these were right before I read them. Anyways, back to Michigan. That's still highly ranked last year. If you're top
Mhm.
25 in those categories, that's not bad. I wouldn't say that's not Harbaugh Michigan that we were used to, or even first year of Sharon Moore defense Michigan, given to what they had. They lose key players in Barham, Benny, and more. But the additions of what Ryan already said, John Henry Daly, again, we'll see when he's able to go, is huge. And then Smith Snowden should immediately help this defense.
Mhm.
If the Michigan spring game final of 7-6 is any indicator for 2026,
Yikes.
then we expect them to lead on the D while watching the offense sputter again. New defensive coordinator Jay Hill brings his 4-2-5 defense in, and reading some quotes by him, he wants this 2026 D to look similar to what Michigan had during their natty run in 2023. And this isn't obviously by players, but by being multiple and showing a variety of looks that confuse opposing quarterbacks and coordinators. So in the spring game, they didn't really blitz a whole lot, but they did show a lot of defensive line looks with varying stunts and multiple defensive back coverage looks. Whittingham was also quoted in saying that he feels they are 5 deep at defensive tackle and 5 deep at edge. Ryan, if we want to talk about depth, there's a good
Mhm.
starting point for them, especially if this team looks to make a push towards the playoff this year in Whittingham first season. The Wolverines, obviously, they're going to continue to loom the top 5 of the Big Ten on defense, but if their offense, man, is not good again, that he's going to feel the pain of having to keep this team in games all season long. And you kind of alluded to this. They have tests of Oklahoma and Indiana at home while they go on the road to Oregon and Ohio State. That will push this defense to limits. If Bryce Underwood, or as some people like to call him, Bryce underperforming, cannot keep his offense on the field. And you texted me Saturday immediately after I thought this in my own head, was like, Bryce Underwood still looks cheeks. Like, and
Dude,
I don't mean that
no
to be a
lie.
dick, but
No
they look the
lie.
same.
I was hanging out with some of my Ohio State friends, and we just had that game on because there was nothing else on TV at the time. I pulled out my phone to text one of my coworkers who's a big Michigan fan. I was just gonna say Tommy Carr QB1, and I literally typed Tommy CA, and a text popped up from him as I was texting him, and that said Tommy Carr might be better than Bryce.
Yeah,
I don't
again,
believe that to be true, and I don't think he
no,
believes
and
that
he's
to be
not going
true.
to
But
start either unless Bryce will be god awful because they owe him a lot of money. But I don't know, man. Like, again, it's not like I watched the whole Michigan spring game, and to be fair, I haven't really watched the Ohio State spring game yet. But just reading what people were talking about, it's like, damn, has Bryce even made any steps towards progress? Because if you look at him, he doesn't step when he throws either at times.
ooh.
But I'm this is not being the nasty Ohio State fan. I want Bryce Underwood
Mm.
to be successful. I think he could be a good quarterback. I think they screwed him last year by how they started off with no
Yep.
quarterback coach. You put this kid
Yeah.
in a tough spot. Now, he did himself no favors. The Michigan faithful pumping him up so much, but he himself had multiple quotes last year to, we're going to continue to beat Ohio State. It's me versus Matt Patricia, one on one. And I'm like, that's a lot of shit to talk for the performance you put out on that field. And I still think Underwood maybe his best gift is his legs. And I think Whittingham will find a way to utilize that. I say the same thing to the Ohio State fans who think Tavian St. Clair should start over Julian Sand now after a spring game is don't be so quick to just turn away on Bryce Underwood after a spring game, guys. Underwood will be better this year. I don't know how good, but he will be better.
Do you want to have this is kind of like a chicken or the egg argument, but I was kind of going through today. There were 11 Big Ten defenses, Clinton, last year that finished in the top 35 in yards per game allowed.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that is good defense versus bad pace and bad
Bad.
offenses?
Yeah, I mean, very possible. This team that I'm going to talk about next benefited from that. I mean, they were downright dominant, but having a lackluster opponents on offense certainly
Yeah.
contributed to that.
So 11 teams finish in the top 35 in yards per game, but only seven finish in the top 35 in yards per play allowed. So might be a pace thing. I just
Yep.
thought that was kind of curious as we were going
Mhm.
through. Number three, Clinton. Now I think our top three is probably going to be the same. I have Ohio State at number three, and I really struggled with this pick because they are losing potentially 4 first-round picks from this defense, and then you throw in Caden Curry, Davison, Igmanosin. I've seen Lorenzo Styles in some mocks too, but 7 draft picks from this defense overall. That is a lot to lose. That is a lot of high-end talent to lose, but this is a team that recruits exceptionally well, arguably better than anyone else in the country. And more often than not, they're bringing in young guys who are getting time early because they're beating the shit out of everyone. So they're playing in games as young players. And then they're coming in and producing. They got some dudes in the secondary. It's going to be tough to replace Caleb Downs, right? That's an eraser back there, but they should have plenty of physical talent back there. I like the youth at linebacker. You know, you get some experience with Christian Allegro coming in from Wisconsin, but you have physical freaks. Riley Pettijohn is a freak. They have other guys who are freaks. The secondary is replacing the departed players with 5 stars and high 4 stars who have already played. Kenyatta Jackson coming back is huge. I am curious what else they're going to have on the edge. I'm not a big fan of the Quay Rousseau transfer. That feels kind of like they just took him because they wanted the defensive tackle from Bama. It was it James Smith, real
Mhm.
bad, and they were kind of a package deal. I do wonder if maybe this is the year that Bo Atkinson finds a bit of a role, right? Like everyone thought that he was going to be really good last year coming in from North Carolina, and I don't think he did a damn thing last year. Um, Kari Wilder, a big freshman coming in. I mean, he was a phenomenal riser in the rankings. I think like when before he committed, he was kind of like mid 200s, and I think he ended up as like a top 50 player nationally. So they got a lot of talent still on this defense, and most importantly, the defensive coordinator's back, right? Like you have a bunch of guys who were in that scheme last year, even if they weren't playing every down football because of the talent that they had. They were still in the scheme, learning the scheme. They have all spring to get familiar with it now in starting roles. This should still be an exceptional defense in 2026.
Number three for me, the Ohio State Buckeyes. So no need to elaborate on Ryan. I will just give you mine. Ohio State defense, man, was just beyond elite for most of 2025. They had no opponent score more than 17 on them all season long. Yes, people, Miami scored 24. Well, that's because they got a pick six. Offense isn't considered defense in my world. So 17 was the most on them all season, I believe. 9.3 points per game, 219.1 yards per game. They also, if I read this correctly, coming into 2026, they are number one in the SP plus for total defense and number one in defense SP plus. Ryan mentioned it. Ton of talent's gone, man. Styles, Reese McDonald, Curry, Igbinosin, and then the largest loss is Caleb Downs. However, I'm going to come back with Ryan here on the comments of the portal. Rousseau has actually been fantastic addition for Ohio State thus far.
Okay.
He was a little bit banged up for Alabama last year, which is why it was kind of hit or miss on his production. But he has been doing very well in spring practices. Brings the type of edge to the defense, and not just the position, but an edge to himself. I'm still uncertain who gets that starting spot opposite of Kenyatta Jackson. Ryan, I think it'll end up being Rousseau. You hit the nail on the head. Bo Atkinson has had a fantastic offseason and spring so far for Ohio State. It seems that he is finally acclimating to the level of play. No offense to North Carolina and the ACC, but different style in the Big Ten compared to what they're playing against. James Smith, everything I've heard about this dude is when he's on the field, he's downright nasty. He pretty much said, I believe in an interview that was, I'll punch you in the face. Not like literally will, but that's the mentality. Like I'm here just to beat the shit out of you. And then they said when you get him out of game mode, he is like the nicest big man ever and is just really fun to have a conversation with. They added obviously safeties more on Little via the portal. It's been said so far this spring, Ryan, they're deeper and possibly better on the whole at cornerback and linebacker for 2026. And I know that's crazy, when Styles and Reese are about to be top 10, maybe top 5 picks apiece on Thursday night. The key here is they may not be the freak top end athletes that Reese and Styles were, but the rooms are built better top to bottom. What I particularly love is the linebacker room. James Laurinaitis being the linebackers coach. He is a fantastic recruiter and coach already. Thank God we got him back from Notre Dame. They're going to feature those guys who have a more traditional fit of linebacker role in Peyton Pierce, Riley Pettijohn, TJ Alford, and Christian Allegro. Pettijohn has missed, I believe, most of, if not all of spring with an injury, but he's expected back for summer routine. But Alford, Allegro, and Pierce have been fantastic. To me, it's the Ohio State defensive line that has something to prove. Mostly at edge. I think defensive tackle is pretty solid for them. But as you already mentioned, Matt Patricia is leading the charge, and he's molding players more specifically to what he wants on defense. And that's, again, not to rehash what we talked about in the portal time. That's why you saw such an abrupt departure of defensive line from Ohio State. I think they're going to live at the top nationally again for defense. But, as Ryan said, you got a much different challenge this year. You're at Texas, at USC, at Indiana, and then you host Oregon. And you also host Michigan, whatever that offense may be. They will be able to run the ball. So this team is going to be much more battle-tested and have to earn. And they earned it, but earn it more. More of a challenge this year to be top 5 in the country. It is.
It's pretty impressive to give up a 2-0 breakaway when you are on a power play, but Pittsburgh just did that.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow Philly didn't score. Number 2, Clinton, I have Indiana, and this is another one I struggled with because you want to talk about losing guys. You know, maybe it's not as jarring as Ohio State with the sheer just volume of high-level talent out the door. Mm-hmm. But you're losing projected draft picks and guys who have been key players there for 2 years. Cornerback D'Angelo Pons, linebacker Aiden Fisher, defensive end Mikhail Kamara, 2025 transfer Lewis Moore, all guys who are off to the next level. I'm kind of surprised looking through mock drafts that Kamara not really listed a ton at all. Fisher, kind of a later round guy. I found that to be fascinating. It might just be more of an athletic thing than anything. I don't know. I'm not an NFL guy. But they were top 10 in total defense and yards per play last year. They're 39th in returning production. So even though they have a lot of that top end talent out the door, they're still bringing back a good portion of this defense. Tyreek Tucker, one of the best returning defensive tackles in the nation. You know, leading tackler, their linebacker Isaiah Jones is back. Elijah Hardy at linebacker is back. Safety Amari Farrell is back. They bring in A.J. Harris at cornerback from Penn State from the portal. They went heavy on the defensive line in the portal. Not sure how that's all going to mix together, but we've seen this twice now, and the ingredients look good, and the cooks in the kitchen are quite good. And you want to talk about guys who deserve the benefit of the doubt. I think Brian Haynes is starting to ascend to that level as a coordinator where he deserves that benefit of the doubt as well, as long as he is at Indiana. They have put together an incredible defense 2 years running now there, and I don't see any reason why that's going to be different this year, particularly since, again, it looks like they're reloading, not rebuilding with the guys that are out the door.
Absolutely, and Indiana sits at number 2 for me. I'm hoping now the Bengals made a big trade for sexy Dexy Lawrence that D'Angelo Pons is the pick at 41 on Friday. I would absolutely love that. Brian already mentioned some of the guys they brought in. Don't forget about, more specifically, the names of Toby Osunsanmi and Shitty Obiazar and Joshua Burnham on the defensive line. In addition to Mario Landino, he's going to help form a formidable, probably top 3, if not number 1, defensive tackle duo in the Big Ten with Tyreek Tucker. They had 18 TFLs combined in 2025. The big thing for Indiana last year, man, that I watched time and time again, they just wreaked havoc in backfields in 2025.
Yep.
Haynes was the most elite defensive coordinator at finding your weakness, and he attacked it. You saw it in the Big Ten Championship with Ohio State at right guard. What did he do? He run right at Tager Shabola right away and found the weak link there, to the point that Ohio State had to make a change in the second half, in addition to all their other opponents' weaknesses that they were able to find. They tallied 46 sacks and 129 TFLs in 2025, Ryan. That is insane.
It's a lot.
And if you think back, we were kind of nitpicking them when they played Old Dominion early on. I'm like, what's going on here? And then they just turned up the heat as the Big Ten season rolled on. I kind of expect something similar to this. Again, it's hard to match statistical output year after year after year, especially when you go undefeated and win a national championship. The returning talent, the incoming portal talent, and Bryant Haynes being an elite pregame and in-game coordinator, the IU defense should be right back at the top in 2026, man, which is why I have them sitting at 2. I could easily make the argument that they could be 1, but we will get to why number 1 is number 1 here in a second after you talk.
Yeah, I did not struggle with this one. I think this is
Penn
undisputed.
State. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Wait, seriously? I was gonna go Rutgers. Um, no, I think, honestly, I think there's a pretty big gap here between 1 and 2, and that is the Oregon Ducks. At least right now, again, right? Like as new information
On
becomes
paper.
available.
Yep.
Um, they're third in the Big Ten in returning production on defense and 11th in the country. And this is a unit that was 7th nationally in yards per game and 5th in yards per play allowed last year. If there is a concern with this defense, to just kind of talk about the cons real quick, just the spine of that D in the back 7 with Dylan Thieneman and Bryce Betcher off to the NFL. I do like the Coy Parrish ad, right? I think we talked about it a little bit with Minnesota. I think ending the special teams offense vanity project and say, just go be a fucking safety kid is going to do wonders for him. And they've already shown that they can take a talented safety who was really good as a freshman, had a bit of a down year as a sophomore, and then turn him into a likely first round pick. They are running that playbook back again. But Clinton overall, they returned 8 of 11 starters last year. You want to talk about top defensive tackle tandems in the country. Amari Washington and Bear Alexander are going to be right up there with that Indiana duo. Tatum Tuioti and Mateo Uiagalelei, perhaps the best edge rushing duo in the conference as well. Brandon Finney is the real deal at cornerback. They recruit well. They are loaded in the secondary with talented guys who are coming in. If someone at linebacker can step up and kind of take that, that Bryce Betcher role, there's really not a weakness in this defense that I can see. They're kind of like the Ohio State vein, right? Like they recruit so well that these guys that they're bringing in from the bench, guys who were depth guys last year who now have to, be on your 2 deep, they are so damn talented. This is going to be a fun defense to watch this year.
Yeah, sorry guys, you're going to get some redundancy here in what Ryan said because he just pretty much read off my sheet, it feels like, and what I was going to talk about Oregon. Key losses, Betcher, is it Kennedy? Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah.
Thieneman, but they're returning 8 of the 11 starters from 2025. Ryan already mentioned Mateo Uyunglele. I almost said DJ. He's in his 12th season of college football, now playing defensive end.
He changed
Mateo Uyunglele. Losing Thieneman's huge, but man, when you bring in Coy Parrish, is one of the top portal players, a former standout, obviously safety at Minnesota. And I agree, Ryan. I think they dicked around a little bit too much last year with Minnesota, trying to be cute with him instead of letting him just kind of focus with one set of return and playing defense, is trying to somehow incorporate him into the offense. I don't expect Oregon to do that. They don't necessarily have a need to do that. Maybe in the return game, but that might still be a DeCorian Moore thing. But player continuity is huge for 2026 in Oregon, especially with new defensive coordinator Chris Hampton. Lou Poy's now heading his alma mater at Cal. Hampton's an internal promotion, so again, that shouldn't really result in a massive scheme overhaul. I'm sure there will be some minor differences here that probably mostly Duck fans will pick up versus you and I, or people who know coaching at that point of, I don't know what the hell I was going to say. For people who know the coaching mechanisms of why they decide what they do. The Ducks defense only allowed 17.9 points per game, 273.7 yards per game last year, and they enter with an SP plus ranking of second for 2026. The front four of Oregon is going to be an absolute monster and a challenge for any offensive line to slow down, man. Ryan already mentioned Uyunglele, Alexander, Washington, Tuioti, 16 sacks and 36.5 TFLs combined in 2025. Good luck slowing down that Ducks defensive line. And my last point of this is 2023, look what Michigan did. 2024, look what Ohio State did. 2025, we thought, look what Penn State did, but shame on us. Look what Indiana did with what they brought back to reload their roster. And now Oregon's repeating the same thing. Can the Big Ten utilize this formula, a team in the Big Ten, utilize this formula for a 4th straight year, Ryan, and pull off 4 straight national titles for the best conference in college football?
No. That is going to be Notre Dame.
You guys got to get through your cotton candy schedule first.
R- Okay, that's fine. That's a fucking warm up. Realistically, like if we were putting Notre Dame in this, where would you have had them for offense and defense? I get that's on the spot, and I don't know where
Oh
I would
boy,
have them either.
not top five for either. No.
Mm, good,
I'm certain
good,
they would
good,
be
good.
top five for both. I think I'd be higher probably on the defense than I would be the offense. So, man, I'd probably put them two on defense.
I think I'd have them one on defense.
I think I'd still go with Oregon, but I think Notre Dame would be two for me. Offensively, I think Love is a big loss. I need, like you said, I need the O line to truly show me something for the full season, and I don't know with wide receivers. We'll see what happens,
Hmm.
but that means I'd have to take Indiana out of my top five if I put them five. I don't know. They'd be real
Their
close,
offense is going
somewhere
to be better than
four to six.
their
I
offense is
think.
going to be better than Indiana this year.
Yeah, I would 4 to 6. I have confidence in Carr. I think the run game will be fine, but it's a huge loss to lose Love and Price, especially when Love is now being rumored to be going number 3 to the Cardinals.
That'd be crazy.
Bless his heart. I feel
Yeah.
so bad for him.
I think if Kingston Viliamuasa is healthy to start the season, I think they have probably the best linebacker duo in the country. They have the best safety duo in the country. I with their cornerback room, like it's kind of like the Ohio State receiver room. Like you have Leonard Moore, like you could have a replacement level guy out there, and you have one of the best cornerback duos in the country. If they get the edge rushers to step up, which it sounds like they have in spring practice, that's another defense that doesn't really have a weakness in it, and they're deep too. So, um, if you were doing a fantasy draft, I don't think you could go wrong with either Notre Dame or Oregon in that instance. But
Hmm.
the Ducks, I think who you had them two on offense.
Yes.
So we both have them number one on defense. I had them number one on offense. I mean, that sounds like a national title contender to me, man. They should
I
be
think they'll
pretty
be
good this
there.
year.
I think there's no reason to believe that Indiana and Ohio State can't be there either. Um, and then I'm sure we can do an episode where we think like a contender pretender type thing too, where do we really truly think this team is a contender for the Big Ten and then
Mhm.
on the bigger scale a contender in the national
Listen,
championship?
low key, kind of look out for Washington too, man. I know you didn't mention them today, but I threw them in my honorable
Mhm.
mentions.
Yeah, they
Their
were honorable
offense is up
mention
there
defense
too.
for me, and then they were fourth on offense for me.
That's a
And Damon was
sneaky good team.
honorable mention quarterback for me, but again, can argue that he could be top five as well.
And just kind of glancing at their schedule, um, I mean, you get the Oregon game, you get Indiana, but at home at the end of the season, you miss Ohio State. You get Penn State at home. You don't really have your long road trips are Nebraska, Purdue, and Michigan State, which has kind of been the sore spot for them. Um,
Purdue and
at
Michigan State shouldn't be a problem. Nebraska's not
no,
that far.
nope, and it's after a bye week there too. So that's a pretty favorable schedule too. That's
Kind of a now or never. Again, we can't see the future what they're going to bring in,
no, for sure. But like
but
that's kind of one of those like when you have the quarterback position in college is such a crapshoot. Like when you have that guy, you have to take
you
advantage
have
of
the
it.
receiver in Roebuck. It's year
Hmm.
2, but you have the receiver. You have the offensive line. You have a good
Hmm.
defense.
Hmm.
We'll figure out what the hell they do on the ground. I'm sure they will figure it out, but
Yep,
you've got the pieces.
sure do.
Utilize Damon's best asset, which is
Hmm.
probably his legs. All right, Ryan, to finish this up, we got the two questions, same two questions we had for the offense. Defense that will finish last in the Big Ten in 2026, Ryan, will be.
Oh my god, I can't. It's just I'm saying Rutgers until proven otherwise.
I
They were
said
so
Rutgers too.
bad, dude. We talked about this. They were like a full yard per play worse than everyone else in college football last year.
Mhm.
Like not just the Big Ten, like in FBS football, they were 126th in yards per play allowed, 7.6 yards per play allowed. That is insane. Well, I guess they weren't a full yard. Air Force was 7.2. Sam Houston was 7. 6.6 was the next closest FBS team or G5, P5 team, P4 team. Jesus Christ, that was hard to say. Purdue was 133rd at 6.6. That is so bad. That is atrocious. So you flip a coin, Purdue, Rutgers. I'm saying Rutgers until proven otherwise.
432.8 yards per game in 2025, 393.8 in 2024. Ryan, they made defensive line upgrades last year in what O'Neal and Weaver, bringing them in.
Didn't
We
help.
talked about how many sacks they had. They had 11 total sacks as a team last year.
Did
They had
not help.
22 in 2024. They do not generate pressure on the quarterback. It is pathetic. We said how bad they were. I believe they were last in the Big Ten in sacks in 2024. And
Yeah.
Ryan, instead of getting
Somehow
better, they
got
cut it in
worse.
half and got worse.
Somehow got worse.
It's I just I'm with you, man.
It's
Until
just
I
like
see otherwise, Rutgers is going to be the worst
that
defense in the Big
that
Ten.
level of program, it's just like you're relying on guys coming up from lower levels and
You
elevating
got to
their
produce
game, and
right
that's
away.
just such a hard ask,
Mhm.
especially when like you might be a good player, and if you put a player like that into a functioning defense, like say Minnesota, for example, maybe they're a good player because they're better that like when you put someone into that controlled environment where everyone's doing their job and you have good players around you, you can be better. When you have like you're asking these G5 pass rushers to come up, it's like, hey man, we need you to be an impact player in the Big Ten, and by the way, you don't have any help on the defensive line. It's like, yeah, that's just not asking the kid to be like you're not putting that kid in a successful position.
Yep, certainly.
You need to hit on multiple. You can't just have expect one guy's going to hit because that's just not even going to be feasible. You need multiple of those guys coming up and hitting, and that's just such a hard proposition to ask.
Yep. All right, final question. I think we're probably both going to have the same answer here. The defense you are most intrigued by in 2026 for the Big Ten.
I'm going to say Penn State.
Oh,
I
we do not
think
have the same answer.
they brought in obviously a lot of good players in the transfer portal, and they have. I think I'm most curious because I'm curious to see if Danton Lynn is actually a good defensive coordinator, or if like the stink of USC like permeates with him, or if he just wasn't good at USC because he's maybe a little bit got a little bit overhyped from his time at UCLA, or if it was just he wasn't his defenses at USC weren't as good statistically because that's just a USC thing. But they are like even last year, man, when everything was going off the rails, they were still pretty good defensively. And I get there's a lot of turnover, so we're not really going to be able to extrapolate much from this. But 25th in yards per game last year, tied for 29th in yards per play allowed. They usually have good defenses. I don't see a reason that's going to change under Matt Campbell, but there's a lot of talk, right? Like, look at the schedule. It should be easy. You still got to take a step forward if you're going to realize that potential and go 10-2, as I've seen some people say they should be this year. But it'll be fascinating to watch, right? Because that's going to be like if they have a really good defense this year, that is most certainly going to accelerate the Matt Campbell rebuild. If they still kind of are hit and miss like they were at times last year, then they're probably going to be an 8-4 year.
USC. If USC wants to contend for a Big Ten or
It's a good one.
title and make the playoff, they have to be better on defense. Gary Patterson's going to keep looking to improve this defense as they have year by year. They were 351 yards per game, which was an improvement from 377 yards per game in 2024, and a major improvement from 2023, Ryan, when they gave
Yeah,
up
they were bad.
432.8 yards per game.
They were bad.
They're full of talented players: Kennedy Urlacher, Christian Pierce, Jontez Williams. Patterson has shown that at TCU he can take 2 and 3 stars and turn them into something. Now he gets 4 and 5 star talent to utilize, like defensive lineman Jakeem Stewart, Jamion
Mhm.
Winfield, and Luke Waffle, or Wafel, however you want to say his last name. But you have alluded to this, and so have I. The Trojans didn't add a ton in the portal. They're going to have to rely on some youth this year to make headway. So it's Gary Patterson to develop them in his first year, in addition to can Lincoln Riley finally put together a reliable defense, because he just never does.
Yeah, that's a good one because I think if you're looking at like units that could tell the story of the college football season, like when we get towards the end and we're talking about conference title races and playoff races, like that USC's defense is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they stink again, they like with that schedule, they are going to be an 8-4, 9-3 team,
Yeah.
even as good as the offense can be. If that defense again, like this is the Iowa conversation, right? Like Iowa just needs to have a mediocre offense, and with that level of defense, they could be a playoff contender. USC just needs to have a passable defense that isn't giving up 60-yard runs left and right with that offense, and they will be a playoff contender.
Yep. They They need something. You talk about a put up or shut up. This is a put up or shut up for me with Lincoln Riley. You had one of the best offenses in the Big Ten last year, if not the best. Ryan just ranked you number one. I have you number three, I believe. Number four, one of the two in mine. We expect your offense to continue to be elite, and that's what Lincoln Riley does. How about you put a damn feasible defense on the field at some point? Because if you do, USC is going to be in the playoff, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get their shot. Now we'll see what happens there, but or if they can even get themselves to the Big Ten championship. But I don't know, man. It's another I'll believe it when I see it moment. As
That
my
is,
stomach just growls insanely loud.
I was
Holy
gonna
cow.
say I heard that one through my headphones. That's crazy. That is all for today. Those are your top 5 defenses in the Big Ten, and you should adopt those opinions as your own because they are correct. We will be back with you guys Monday night, same time next week, where we will do our draft of some kind. We are still finalizing the details on what that's going to look like, but
Should
Clinton
be
will
fun.
tweet. Yeah, Clinton will tweet those out when we figure it out, and you guys can prepare yourselves accordingly. Thank you. Have a great week.